On this channel we like to go deeper, we like to go into the archetypal levels, and what I would specifically like to talk about in this intrapsychic, depth psychology, comparative analysis of Backrooms and Obsession is what I consider to be the core archetype at the very dark heart of these stories that is at the same time the same archetype but also the opposite archetype, and that is the devouring mother and the devouring father. So if we view the movies from an intrapsychic perspective,
it's only me.
We will find that both Bear and Clark are being confronted by their shadow. Back in May, 2 indie horror movies came out 2 weeks apart, namely Obsession and Backrooms. Now, it's not unprecedented for 2 indie horror movies to come out during the summer. What is unprecedented is for them to utterly demolish the box office, outcompeting, a big franchise like Star Wars and outcompeting a legendary director like Spielberg. Right, we had Star Wars and Disclosure Day coming out during the summer as well. The movies are made by Kane Parsons and Cory Barker, and these movies are original horror movies, meaning that they're not based on existing IP, they're not a prequel, they're not a sequel, they're not based on a book. So these are original horror movies made by debut directors, and they have broken historical record after historical record. Either of them coming out by themselves would have been absolutely massive and history breaking, but the fact that both of them came out 2 weeks apart and have been breaking all these box office records and have both passed the $300 million box office mark the very same weekend, it's lightning in the bottle type stuff here that we're dealing with. But is there more to unify them beyond being historically record-breaking, YouTuber-directed, 9-letter titled indie horror films that came out virtually at the same time and have performed virtually at the same astounding level? To answer that, let's look a little deeper, shall we, at the movie's shared obsession. I'm the Occult Observer, welcome to the channel, and without further ado, let's talk Obsession and Backrooms. Cheers. Where Obsession, as the emotive title suggests, is a tightly woven, character-enmeshed story, Backrooms, as its topographical title suggests, is a movie that leans heavily into world building. It is, after all, a liminal horror movie based on a 4chan creepypasta post about finding oneself in a near-endless monotonous office space maze. In short, we're dealing with quite different horror movies here, with one being more character-oriented and the other more world-building oriented. But the longer we watch Backrooms, the deeper we get lost in the endless mono-yellow, palette-carpeted, LED buzzing limbo claustrophobia, the more we realize that the main character Clark is every bit as obsessed with the Backrooms as Bear is with Nikki and Freaky Nikki with Bear.
You got the camera, right? Or you can borrow it again.
You still haven't told us what we're doing here, man.
I did tell you. Research.
What the fuck?
The obsession comes about in different ways in the respective movies. One arrives on the spot, the other one evolves, but both become all-consuming. Nikki is obsessed the moment Bear snaps the one-wish Willowbrains in half after having uttered the incantation of wanting her to love him more than anything in the world. As for Clark, he grows obsessed with the Backrooms once he finds out that he can leave behind his life with all his regrets and disappointments and grinding work in favor of existing responsibility-free within the yellow plastered nooks and crannies together with the distorted copy of the woman that left him, and of course, the monstrous version of his pirate Clark, alter ego.
We've got it all, and the price is so low, you'll think that you're robbing me!
Once the one-wish Willowbrains has been snapped in half, Bear's greatest dream becomes his greatest nightmare. The girl that he wants him as much as he wants her. And what's more, unlike him, she's not afraid to show it.
Do you like me? Now's the time to tell me.
I think we're good friends.
Okay, good. Good night.
Why? One wish Willow.
Maybe you want to come inside?
The opposite but similar case is the case for Clark, when his worst nightmare, endless furniture with no one to buy, becomes his dream the moment he finds that he can live inside the LED buzzing backrooms with the simulacra of his ex-wife, who threw him out of my house, as he adamantly states to his therapist, leaving him to a life of sleeping on the couches inside his own furniture store. Now he can instead, quite tragicomically, live in a nearly one-to-one equivalent surrounding with a disjointed artificial wife without having to change anything about himself. Similar to Bear, who also takes the path of least resistance by making his cursed wish instead of letting the girl that he likes know that he likes her. Sure, maybe he gets rejected, but then he finds out whether or not she likes him back. But he doesn't do that. He snaps the willow and makes his wish. In short, we're dealing with lonely men who yearn for union in Barry's case and reunion in Clark's case with the feminine, but who are too superficially self-absorbed to truly connect with themselves and thereby connect with the woman of their desire and their yearning, because you can only connect with someone at the level that you've connected with yourself. And these men, sadly enough, have not deeply connected to their own inner depths, their own anima, the feminine within them. And if you don't have a good relationship to the feminine within you, then you can't have a good relationship to the feminine outside you. But we'll get back to that. The results of the before mentioned are strangely similar but not similar situations when ever-frightened Bear has freaky Nikki always wanting to be with him, while a psychotically satisfied Clark always has a simulacra wife by his side. While one partner is predictable and the other unpredictably predictable in that we ever sit at the edge of our seats in suspended terror for what she will do next, both women are in the same boat of being entrapped by self-obsessed men who want them but do not know how to love them as actual people. Now, some of you might be thinking, why are you looking at Bear and Clark? Why are you not looking at Nikki and Clark? I mean, it's obvious that Clark is the obsessive character in Backrooms, but in Obsession is obviously Nikki, yeah? I mean, sure, Bear is the obsessive character to begin with, but after the One Wish Will a Wish, it's very much Nikki, or Freaky Nikki, who's the obsessive character, right?
Do you want to come inside, or?
While this is certainly true from an esoteric, plot-level viewing of the story, and I do recommend going in and watching the movie from that perspective, just looking at Nikki as a character, Bear as a character, in and of themselves, right? And then you look at their dynamic as being the dynamic between two people. But on this channel, we like to go deeper. We like to go into the archetypal levels, and Obsession lends itself very well to a Jungian analysis. In fact, I think it was deliberately encoded with Jungian psychology. In Backroom's case, it's quite obvious that the story is functioning on a subconscious or even unconscious level. You know, the Backrooms are literally being populated with people, or at least distorted copies of people from the characters' real life, notably Clark, right? A distorted sort of simulacra version of his wife is down there with him, yeah? So it's obvious that the Backrooms populates itself with people, and I think it also shapes itself according to the person's intrapsychic makeup. So in that sense, sort of its external manifestation is flexible and is sort of molding itself according to who you are. And that's why the more often you go into the Backrooms, the less it changes, because people are often in the same cognitive loops, right? They think the same thoughts, they have the same complexes, they go through the same emotions, and they sort of, you know, their seasons, very predictable seasons to their inner life. And then we of course have the pirate monster as well, who is this distortion of this alter ego that Clark has when he is advertising for his furniture store. So if we view the movies from an intrapsychic perspective, we will find that both Bear and Clark are being confronted by their shadow. And what I would specifically like to talk about in this intrapsychic depth psychology comparative analysis of Backrooms and Obsession is what I consider to be the core archetype at the very dark heart of these stories, that is at the same time the same archetype but also the opposite archetype, and that is the devouring mother and the devouring father. Beginning with obsession, if we again look at the movie from an intrapsychic Jungian perspective, if you will, where Nikki is not just, and we can look at it from both perspectives at the same time, right, the external and the internal, but where Nikki is not just the external Nikki that Bear is crushing on, but also an aspect of his own unconscious. Well, then we would, from a Jungian perspective, classify her as an Anima, or as his Anima. I do think that we have multiple Animas as men, or rather that the Anima has different facets and ways of expressing itself. So there is the mother Anima that sort of governs the mother and son relationship, but then we also have Animas that govern the relationship that men have to their spouses, right, their partners. In the case of Bear, he believes that he wants a partner, a spouse. But what is his wish really? His wish is he wants a woman that loves him more than anything in the world.
You only get one wish. I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the entire world.
I mean, which woman loves a boy more than anything in the world but a mother, yeah? So I actually believe that when he makes his wish, he's actually wishing for a mother, because that is exactly what most so-called men who are really just really immature, stifled masculine psychologies, what they want is actually a mother, right? Think about it. Misogynists who are essentially just young boys in male bodies, what they want is to return to the 1950s. And the type of wife that men had back in the 1950s was, I mean, let's just break it down. It was a woman that is always at home, that cleans their clothes, cleans the house, cooks for them, and caretake them all the time. That is a mother, right? I mean, that is the mother of their childhood, right? The mother that was always at home, or like was home a lot and cleaned and made food for them and all that stuff, right? So that's actually what a lot of men in today's society want. They don't want a partner, they want a mother. So when Barry's like, I want Nikki to love me more than anything in the world, he's like, I want Nikki to be my mommy. I want her to caretake me, you know, to obsess about me and care about me and always be there for me and cook for me.
What's that mean?
But he of course doesn't get the positive expression of the mother archetype. He gets the shadow expression of the mother archetype, and that is the devouring mother. And it's very curious that during the party scene where Nikki is reading aloud a piece of writing that she penned, she's talking about Hansel and Gretel.
Come lie with me like the old woman taught us when we were children.
And I think many people watching this scene, they're like, oh, okay, so she represents Gretel and Bear represents Hansel.
You're not my wife, Gretel.
I'm more than your wife. I'm your sister.
But I think that in that story, Nikki is actually being the witch, the cannibalistic witch that eats Hansel, exactly like the devouring mother sort of consumes the man, whether the devouring mother is a real mother or again a sort of imbalanced Anima expression within the man himself.
Hansel flinched and reached for the door handle. I knew he would not leave this place. He would relent and choose to be inside me like he had many nights before. If not, I would fillet his meaty forearm, roll it like a stick of licorice, and insert the flesh between my legs.
In either case, the devouring mother doesn't want the boy to become a man, doesn't want the man to exercise his will, to get out there, to enter, knighthood mode, and eventually attaining a kingdom with a queen, She wants to keep him at home, and she wants to keep him with her, and to basically isolate him from the world. And that is exactly what Nikki, or Freaky Nikki, wants, right? She wants Bear to stay at home, and when he goes to work, she is not very happy about that. So she wants him to stay at home, she wants him to be with her all the time, and if he goes somewhere, she wants to come with. Yeah, so again, very clingy, very needy, very all-enveloping, and potentially all-consuming. We don't know what would happen if the story progressed, but who knows, we can only imagine. But basically, we're dealing with the devouring mother archetype in Nikki. But that's not the only aspect that I see in Nikki. I see Nikki as she is a very complex character, and she has multiple Anima-like qualities, right? Multiple Anima expressions. But this is just one of them. If you guys would like me to obsess even more about obsession and make more videos, then I would love to do an even greater, more comprehensive deep dive into Nikki's character. And now let's shift our focus to Backrooms, where we also see a devouring archetype.
What was that?
It's only me.